Overview for Proverbs. Purpose: to give maxims, practical advice, and counsel of a moral nature to the Hebrew people, instructing them on how to conduct themselves in light of God's principles of order. Author: internal evidence names King Solomon as the primary author. See Proverbs 1:1, 10:1, and 25:1. The men of Hezekiah, Proverbs 25:1, seemingly compiled the material found in chapters 25 through 29, and the final chapters were contributed by Agur and Lemuel. Date written: probably over a period of time during Solomon's reign, approximately 970 to 931 BC. History: during Solomon's reign, the nation of Israel reached its apex spiritually, politically, culturally, and economically. As Israel's reputation spread, so did King Solomon's, and dignitaries from throughout the known world traveled great distances to learn from the wisdom of this monarch. In 1 Kings 4:29 through 34, Solomon is credited with writing 3,000 proverbs and over 1,000 songs. Key verse: the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. Special features: the book of Proverbs is a collection of moral and philosophical statements and wise sayings which employ contrast, a common Semitic literary device, to present its message. Other literary techniques incorporated in the book include parables, pointed questions, poetic couplets, and personification. The book is built around the theme of wisdom. The words wise and wisdom occur at least 125 times in its 31 chapters. The wisdom extolled goes far beyond just a high degree of intelligence. It is based upon moral virtue and is synonymous with righteousness. Perhaps the greatest error in a correct understanding of Proverbs comes when the maxims are regarded as mere secular commentary rather than divinely inspired instruction. Setting: in the society of ancient Israel, the family played an important role in the upbringing and education of children. Some internal evidence suggests that the Proverbs were used in a family setting. The phrase, "my son," appears some 20 times throughout the book, while the role of the mother is alluded to 10 times. Although wisdom is the primary theme of the book, it covers a wide range of topics based on common experiences in the everyday world: morality and immorality, diligence and sloth, self-control and intemperance, wealth and poverty, child discipline, and discernment in choosing friends. Summary: unlike many other books of the Bible, there is no plot or storyline found in the book of Proverbs, nor are there principal characters. Throughout the book, wisdom is compared and contrasted with foolishness, and the wise, or righteous, man with the fool, one who is devoid of morality and uninterested in correction. The wisdom of Proverbs rightly places God at the center of man's life and establishes that even in down-to-earth matters, true wisdom is living in harmony with His divine purpose. Proverbs 1:1 through 33. Devotional focus verse: the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. The last 2 years of high school and the following 4 in college were defining years in my life. Though I had little religious background, partway through high school I understood enough about the gospel to yield my life to the Lord. As I began to live for Him, Christian role models were critically important to me. One person who had a great influence on my life was a man in our church we called Brother Mike. By the time I knew him, Mike was an elderly gentleman. Because he had been born in another country, he spoke with a thick accent and had difficulty reading English. He worked as a janitor in the local high school, where I am confident he did a conscientious job. Unquestionably, my college professors and even many of my fellow students had more academic knowledge than Mike. Yet he possessed wisdom. He reverenced God and had committed his life to Him. When we met at church, he invariably had a big smile. He spent much time in prayer and testified often of the joy he felt in his heart. Many around me were searching for meaning in life, generally in all the wrong places. But Mike had found it in Christ. My final memory of Mike is especially poignant. During a Sunday evening service, he suddenly suffered a serious heart attack. Several of the men carried him to a back room, while the rest of us went to prayer. In just a short time, he left this world for a far better place. Today's focus verse says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Mike did not have much formal education, so some may have assumed he was not very smart. However, he had the kind of wisdom that is of eternal value because he reverenced the Lord and obeyed His word. Meanwhile, many of my fellow students and teachers seemingly had no concern for God's wisdom and instruction, which made them foolish in God's sight. Love for God and a determination to follow His teaching are attitudes that will benefit us now and throughout eternity. Mike knew that, and he is now in heaven, experiencing eternal rewards. Let's follow his example and make sure our focus is on acquiring true wisdom. Background information. A proverb can be defined as a concise saying that gives advice or a practical principle. The book of Proverbs is a collection of these, mostly written and assembled by King Solomon. God met with him one night after he had presided over an immense sacrifice to the Lord in Gibeon. See accounts in 2 Chronicles 1 and 1 Kings 3. When asked what reward he would like from God, rather than riches or honor, Solomon requested wisdom so that he would know how to lead God's people. God was so pleased with this response that he blessed Solomon with great wisdom, enabling him to acquire a vast amount of knowledge concerning the world in which he lived and giving him the ability to apply it astutely. The first chapter of Proverbs sets the tone for the entire book. Verses 1 through 7 indicate that Proverbs was intended to educate, and those of any age or gender can profit by the instructions in this book. King Solomon wanted his people to know wisdom, to acquire it, not just to be aware of it. The four terms in verse 3, wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity, are different aspects of truth, a quality which God values highly. Verse 7 has been considered a key text for the whole book. In it, the fear of the Lord means to have awe and reverence for God. Practical teaching begins in verses 8 through 9, with an exhortation to heed the guidance of one's parents and a promise of benefit for doing so. Verses 10 through 19 describe the lawless who try to entice others to join them. Robbery was common in the land of Israel through all the years of its history, and often there was no regard for the lives of the innocent. Great and quickly acquired wealth was the lure. However, the writer said such people were setting a trap for themselves. Even birds are able to avoid a net put out to snare them, but the evil people described would be caught because of their greediness. Wisdom is often personified as a woman in the book of Proverbs, and verse 20 is the first time this literary technique is used. In verses 20 through 23, wisdom earnestly calls for people to heed her. She calls the simple ones, those who listen to both good and evil, the scorners, those who defy God and scoff at godliness, and fools, those who have hardened their hearts and are stubborn. Her call is universal. It goes out to everyone. Verses 24 through 33 show the results of refusing to heed wisdom. The determination not to follow wisdom's counsel promises sure disaster. The implied spiritual application is that those who refuse to heed God's call to yield to Him will one day regret their decision. In the last verse of the chapter, wisdom promises blessings to those who will abide by her instructions. Conclusion. A proper reverence for God and obedience to His instructions will start us down the path of acquiring true knowledge.
The Proverbs.
Chapter 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. And they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of every one that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Because I have called, and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded, but ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord, they would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil.